Today, I'm talking about max cushion shoes. .23 miles, 9 minutes, 52 seconds per mile, 141 beats per minute on average today, taking it nice and easy on my run commute in the Bondi 6. Still recovering from the Houston Marathon about 10 days ago now, but the last 3 runs that I've done have been in these 3 max cushion shoes so that I could give you guys my thoughts on the 3 of these shoes head to head to head. Now, before I get into my detailed thoughts about that, I do want to go over some disclosures. The Bondi 6 is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for that, but I did pay for the Triumph 17 and the Ultraboost 19 with my own money. Now, the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about these 3 max cushion shoes. Now, I think before we get into each one individually, we got to talk about the genre as a whole. Max cushion shoes are something that I've only in the last about year or so started getting really interested in, as I've been running more miles than ever and running more miles per week than ever. And so as those miles add up, it takes its toll on your body. And what I like to be able to do is every once in a while, give it a little bit of a break while still getting out there and running, but running in something that has a little bit more cushion and more shock absorption that I'm used to running. And so that's where these 3 of these shoes, as well as other notable max cushion shoes, have come into play. But these are the 3 that I want to talk about for today. And first, let's talk about the Bondi 6. The Bondi 6 is Hoka's Hoka Yes shoe. It's its most cushioned shoe. It's its tallest stack height and the most EVA foam that they put in a shoe. 37 millimeter stack height, 4 millimeter drop, about 10.8 ounces is the listed weight for this shoe. I think that it's a pretty awesome example of what exactly a max cushion shoe is. When I think of max cushion shoes, that's what I think of. But I think the definition, or what we are going to be seeing in max cushion shoes, is going to be changing over the next couple of years. Because right now we have shoes like the Ultraboost 19, normally considered by most runners to be not really a running shoe, but I think that it's more of a max cushion shoe. It's been a max cushion shoe, and so it's been a little bit hard for runners to kind of comprehend, because they tend to think of it and compare it to daily trainers. This shoe is, though, very comfortable. It's got a bunch of boost in it and all the comfort and all the bounciness that Boost provides, and it's got that wonderfully comfortable prime knit upper. It's a 10 millimeter heel drop shoe, and it's the heaviest of 3 at 11 ounces, although all 3 of these shoes are within 0.3 ounces of each other, so I consider them to be about the same weight. Although, like, once you get to like 11 mentally, that just sounds a lot heavier to me. The third shoe that I'm going to talk about today is the Triumph 17 from Saucony. This one just came out very recently. It's got a new foam from Saucony, which is Power Run Plus. It looks a lot like Boost. It feels a lot like Boost. I'm pretty excited about this one. The upper on this one, that's what's really notable for me, is all this like memory foam like cushion that's around the heel and in the ankle area. Super comfortable. In the summertime, this kind of foam, I just absolutely hate it because it just collects and holds on to sweat. But in the wintertime, the season that we're in now, I just absolutely love all the comfort and a little bit of the extra warmth that this type of material provides. The Saucony Triumph 17 is a 8 millimeter heel drop shoe, 33 millimeters of stack height in it, and is actually the lightest of all 3, although at 10.7 versus the Bondi 6's 10.8. In terms of listed weights, for me, they all feel about the same weight, although on foot they do have some differences. Now that I've given like a brief overview of each of the shoes individually, let's talk about them head to head, because that's why you guys are all here for this video. So in terms of the midsoles, we got 3, or I guess 2 two different types of midsoles. I think the Ultraboost 19 and the Power Run Plus midsoles are relatively similar, and it's very different from the Bondi 6. The Bondi 6 is EVA, so kind of like a traditional regular running shoe type of material, but there's a bunch of it. And what happens when you put that much EVA in the shoe, or at least when you put that much EVA in this shoe, is that at first it just kind of felt like I was standing on a whole bunch of shoe. But after 30 miles, which I think is a really long time to break in a shoe, but after about 30 miles, the top part of it started to relax a little bit. And I felt like as I was stepping in the shoe, each time I'm kind of sinking in a very comfortable way. Kind of like that moment when you hit the bed and you sink into your sheets and into the bed and all that pillowy softness. That's kind of what I'm getting from the Bondi 6, which is really welcome on those days when I do want to run longer, or when my feet are a little bit beat up, or my joints are feeling it a little bit. That's exactly the thing that I'm looking for in a max cushion shoe. So that's what I'm getting from that EVA foam. In the Ultraboost 19, they put 20% more boost in it than they had in the previous year's Ultraboost shoe. Although I never really thought that the Ultraboost problem was that it needed more boost. And the weird thing about it in this scenario, in terms of the way they've implemented in the Ultraboost 19, is that they seem to put all that boost in the back, and even feels like they've taken away some from the forefoot and midfoot area. So you've got a really back heavy shoe, which I feel like makes it feel a little bit unbalanced, but you've got a ton of bouncy but soft cushion in the midsole here. The Power Run Plus of the Triumph 17, as I mentioned, it seems very similar to Boost, but I feel like Power Run Plus, the foam, and I don't have like a unit of it to measure against a unit of Boost, but I feel like this is a little bit lighter of a shoe. I feel like it's a little bit lighter of a midsole material. Maybe it's just that it's balanced better. I feel like there's just as much foam in the back of this shoe as in the UB19, but I feel like there's just the right amount of foam in the midfoot and forefoot, so I'm really liking the way that this performs. I'm getting a lot of that cushion feel, but I'm also getting a lot of that bounciness, the kind of stuff that you'd expect from, say, Boost, to come back and give you a little bit of spring, but I really like the way that Saucony's implementing it with their foam here. In terms of the uppers, let's take a look at those, starting with the Bondi. We've got pretty much a standard running shoe upper. So very comfortable, very functional. It's flexible in the areas where you need it to be flexible, but also can really secure your foot down. It's also the only shoe in this comparison with a pull tab, for those of you that care about the pull tab. But the upper is really nice and comfortable and not super plush, which I appreciate. Sometimes I feel like with the max cushion shoes, companies go over the top in terms of like, we're going to make it the softest midsole, we're going to give you the most stuff on the upper. This is a max cushion shoe that wants you to be able to actually go run in it and not just lounge around in it. So a very good upper. In terms of what's on the Ultraboost 19, it's got prime knit on the upper. I love prime knit. I'm still a big fan of knit uppers. This one is super comfortable. But I think the upper that I prefer the most out of all these three is going to be the Triumph 17. And mainly that's because it's wintertime now and I'm loving all the cushion that's around the heel and the ankle. Plus, the material is still very flexible for my toes in the toe box. So I'm getting on both ends, both on the heel and in the toes, a lot of comfort in the two different types of way that I need comfort in terms of an upper. So I think of the three, the Ultraboost 19's prime knit is my favorite to kind of walk around in, but to run in, it's definitely the Triumph 17's upper. Now in terms of the outsoles to me are all pretty much equivalent. You got Continental rubber on the Ultraboost 19. I do think that it's the grippiest. Not that any of these shoes are trail shoes by any means. Not that I would even probably try and do a lot of grass running in them. I'm mainly a road runner, and on my experience in roads, I feel like the Continental rubber has been really great, especially in the wintertime here where I might occasionally come across some dirt or some snow or ice that I have to traverse because the paths get pretty nasty this time of year. The Triumph 17's outsole has also been very good to me in terms of the traction that's been able to give. I haven't run in it quite enough yet to comment on its durability and longevity, but compared to other Saucony shoes that I've run in that have similar setups for the outsole, I anticipate that it's going to do very well. And then the The third, although it's not very far third in terms of the outsole performance, it would be the Bondi 6 for me if I'm going to rank them. You are running on some strategically placed rubber, but there's not quite as much. I think they're doing that to save on some weight. And the rubber's holding up really well. But I do find that it's the least sure-footed of these three shoes, maybe because it's also the tallest, although it's only the tallest by a very, very small amount, 4 millimeters taller than the next tallest, which is the Triumph 17's 33 millimeters in the heel. So it's not tremendously taller, but I do think it's that taller stack height that makes it feel a little bit less sure-footed than the other two shoes. But in terms of how the rubber is performing and how it's holding up, it's been holding up really well. That's the shoe that I have the most miles in terms of these three shoes. Now, in terms of overall, what does it feel like to run in these shoes? Which ones do I like the most? I think number 3 would be the Ultraboost 19. This is the one of these max cushion shoes that I like the least. And that's because I feel like Adidas is trying to do too much with it. The Ultraboost has for a long time been what I think a max cushion shoe, and everyone's been complaining that it doesn't feel like a trainer. So this year they took the max cushion shoe and made it feel like a trainer. And up front here, this part from like the arch forward feels like a daily trainer. There's not a lot of cushion up front. I feel like it's pretty nimble and agile. From here back, it's definitely a max cushion shoe. So you got like a weird mullet of a shoe going on. It's trying to do two things. Daily trainer up front, max cushion in the back. And what it ultimately ended up for me being was a confusing shoe. And I found myself, for the most part, avoiding all the 20% extra boost and weight that they put in the shoe and trying to land mainly on the forefoot and midfoot in the shoe as I'm running in it. So it's not really achieving its purpose of being a max cushion shoe, and it still feels a little bit heavy for a daily trainer. So I don't think it's doing what I thought it should be doing or what I think Adidas is trying to do with it. I don't think it does either of those exceptionally well. And because there's also so much weight in the back, this 10 millimeter heel drop shoe feels like it's like a 12. If you told me this was 12 millimeters heel drop, I'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. So this is my least favorite of these three max cushion shoes. In number 2, I would put the Bondi 6. The Bondi 6, I think, is a paradigmatic example of what a max cushion shoe should be or is today. You're getting all that comfort, all that shock absorption, all that cushioning that you want in a max cushion shoe. This shoe is definitely delivering, and it's delivering it exceptionally well. You're getting a lot of that cushion, that sink-in comfort, just feels plush when your foot hits it every time you're taking a step. But because of the rocker design, even though it's a 4 millimeter heel drop shoe, you're still getting through the gait cycle relatively quickly. That all being said, I do think because of the plushness, you're getting a little bit of the speed penalty that max cushion shoes normally have. So that's why I put it at number 2. And for most years, I think it'd probably be a number 1, except for the fact that this year we have the Triumph 17 to contend with. And I think this is kind of the Goldilocks of the Ultraboost 19 and the Bondi 6. It's giving us the best of both worlds, and not in a mullet kind of way, but in a really smoothly executed kind of way. So we're getting a lot of that plush comfort in the upper, around the ankle and heel collar. We're getting all that foam, and we're getting a lot of the cushion in the back with all this Power Run Plus foam that's here. That's very, very boost-like. They've also put a lot of foam in the midfoot and forefoot, which makes for a really nice balance and transition in terms of as you're stepping on the ground and hitting the ground and then stepping through to your next stride. And it has the right amount of cushion in there, so that way it doesn't feel like you're hitting the ground too hard, and you're getting still a lot of that cushion and comfort. And it's doing it in a really well executed way that makes it feel almost light for a 10.7 ounce shoe. So I think that's really fantastic. It's an 8 millimeter heel drop, which I think is just about right for a shoe of this type. And I'm really enjoying running in this Power Run Plus. So this is my favorite of these three max cushion shoes, and I think this really exemplifies like the new direction that max cushion shoes are going. I hope the Bondi 6 doesn't change too much, because I think we're always going to want to have that like Hoka-iest of the Hoka shoes, but I think the new trend for max cushion shoes is going to be max cushion, but still can be used as a daily trainer, something that the UB19 is trying to do. I think the Triumph 17 executes exceptionally well. And so I think that the target market for max cushion shoes is also going to be shifting a little bit. It's not just going to be the people who are looking for a specialty sub-niche kind of, or sub-niche kind of shoe It's going to be for people that are looking for that are looking for the extra cushion for their longest mile weeks, for pushing the distance. Maybe it's that part of your training cycle where you're going to hit that 20 mile or maybe that 22 mile run, and you want something to be really supportive for your joints. There's definitely going to be a space for that, and I think the Bondi 6 hits that exactly right. But I think that there's people that are coming back to running after a long hiatus, people that may have some lingering issues or chronic issues with some joints, and they're looking for something that has a little bit more shock absorption, but are looking to use that shoe every day. I think that's where these new max cushion shoes are going to be trying to address those people. A lot of people who aren't currently in the running shoe marketplace, but are about to get in there. I think that's where these max cushion shoes are coming. And the other type of person, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, I think the other type of person that's going to be buying a lot of these new types of max cushion shoes are self-described heavier runners, people that are taller than me or maybe bigger than me, that are looking for something to give them a little bit more cushion, because what I would use as a daily trainer just might not be enough for their body type. And so they're looking for something that has a little bit more of what daily trainers provide without losing that daily trainer feel. So that's where the Ultraboost 19 and the Triumph 17 comes in. It's also where, and I'll give you a fourth shoe to compare against, although I don't have it anymore, so I haven't run in it recently, which is the 1080 V10. A lot of you guys have been asking me to compare that to the Saucony Triumph 17. And I think that they're very similar shoes, trying to do a very similar thing in a very similar way. There's two main differences in that shoe. I love both of those shoes, and I think they're a really great example of like the new kind of max cushion shoe that we're seeing. Both of them have that daily trainer feel, just with a lot more cushion. The differences in the two foams for me, the best way I think I can describe it is like tennis ball versus racquetball. The tennis ball in this situation is the Triumph 17, where you're getting a really nice amount of bounce. The racquetball in this situation is the Fresh Foam X in the 1080 version 10. It's just a little bit bouncier to me, it seems. Very beacon-like, that shoe, which is what I love about it. But it's got a lot more foam, and it's a little bit on the springier side. I think it's a little bit springier than the Power Run Plus. I could be wrong on that. I haven't run in that 1080 V10 for a while, but just from my gut memories and gut reactions, that's the way I'm feeling. The uppers are also very, very different in terms of what you're seeing on the 1080 V10 in terms of material and also the aesthetic approaches that you're getting in there. So that's also something to consider as well. But in overall kind of where I think they're trying to position that 1080 V10, it's for that bigger, taller runner, or that runner that wants to be able to use a max cushion shoe on more of a daily trainer basis, because maybe they're just coming back to running after a long hiatus, or maybe they just don't want to pay the speed penalty that some of the more traditional max cushion shoes tend to bring. So I kind of group the Triumph 17 and the 1080 V10 very, very close. It's hard for me to pick one that I like more than the other. I think a lot of that's going to come down to personal preference in terms of what you like in the amount of springiness that's there, and whether you like the upper on that 1080 V10, which I think for a lot of people has been very polarizing. So those are my thoughts on these max cushion shoes, the 3+1. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it more down there. Before I go, I do want to talk to you guys about the charity runner for this week. This week it's Angela Eams, who's going to be running the Boston Marathon with her husband. Their family has an incredible story. I'm so happy to be able to donate $70 of my own money to their fundraising efforts. I would definitely recommend going and checking out their story. These are just some really incredible people. So excited that they're going to be running Boston, and they're going to be doing it to raise money for the Stepping Strong Center for Trauma Innovation, a very important and very Boston related charity. I'll post links in the description down below in case you'd like to learn more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?